Quý vị vẫn đang đồng hành với chúng tôi trong chương trình Đồng tiền thông minh với chủ đề mô hình hợp tác công tư trong lĩnh vực lúa gạo. Welcome back to our Smart Money Show, gentlemen. I'd like to start again from you, Dr. Isreal. So it shows that Pacific market accounts for nearly 20% of Bayer CropScience turnover, and for sure that you have practiced a lot of PPP ventures in this region. So can you share with us some experience on how this model is applied?
Yeah, so indeed Asia Pacific is one of the key regions in our portfolio and one of the key growth regions. And as rice is a key crop here, this is of the highest importance, and in each of our reviews we look at and where we look for concrete opportunities, how we can make contributions. The deployment is usually country specific, because our experience is that it's particularly successful if we can align around a specific country, geography or crop with a defined group of stakeholders. And this is also what we will be looking for in the future, and where we have in particular across Southeast Asia very positive experiences where we were able to, with our partners, increase quality, increase yield. We mentioned this morning the number of 20% that we see in several of our partnerships, and thereby of course also the farmer incomes, which is of course and probably the key concern also in these models. So we expect to continue to be very active in this area.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that your experience with us. And in fact, the PPP model has been piloted in Vietnam in 2010, and the results have been quite optimistic. The production has increased about 2 and 3 times higher, and the farmers' income also have increased about 10 to 15%. So, Mr. Velden, in the long term, because this is the very, first beginning of a very long journey. So, in the long term, what do you think are the opportunities and challenges that we continue to develop this kind of model especially in Vietnam?
If we look at Vietnam, we implemented the Rice Value Chain project a couple of years ago. And I have to say the results which we saw so far are really very encouraging. So farmers have higher incomes, we could reduce inputs, etc., etc. We could increase the knowledge of the farmer. But we are also clearly facing a lot of challenges. One challenge is smallholder farming. So we always have to tackle a big group of farmers. Other issues are access to finance. So farmers don't have real access to finance, which limits their access to technology. Education of smallholder farmers is normally on a lower level than in other crops. But on the other side, I think also we see a lot of opportunities, and I think that's also why we are here today. So we can bring our partners closer together, so we can increase the work with our stakeholders, with the value chain partners. We can link finance institutes to give access to farmers, to credit to farmers. By that, we also would increase the adoption of technology. But I see also, especially here in Vietnam, there is a lot of room for improvement when it comes to infrastructure. So overall, I think there is a lot of opportunities which will drive these public-private partnerships forward in the future.
And you also mentioned about the investments that the partnership, can bring into the ventures. And Dr. Yu, since 2010, the PPP model has gradually been applied into Vietnam's agriculture industry. However, most of the investment has come from the foreign corporations such as Bayer and Unilever or Nestle, etc. So what do you think about the local companies? Why don't they pay much attention into this kind of partnership?
Yeah, looking for the whole value chains, we can see that there should be many actors to join together in order to improve the farmer livelihood, also to improve the quality, also the branding of the product, etc. That's why not only the investment from the foreign company, we will see the very important of the local company also, like the Vietnamese rice exporter, the input dealer, the like a seed company or a fertilizer company also. They should join together. I think in the PPP, in the near future, I think the role of the local company is very important. I think it will contribute for the successful of the PPP in Vietnam.
Thank you. And also from the investment perspective, Dr. Bickel, quite obviously China is the most successful country when applying the PPP model in agriculture industry, because they have largest crop area and they have abundant of labor forces. In your opinion, in terms of competition, what are the strengths that Vietnam has in order to attract investors so that they can pour investment in?
Yeah, I mean, certainly China is a very good example, I would say, but I would look at it from a different perspective, talking about Vietnam, since Vietnam has not in a similar way abundant resources and labor available like China. So Vietnam would find its own way, I would say, and what is really key, in my opinion, is that currently per year 800,000 people are moving out of agriculture. For instance, in 1989, we had 71% of the Vietnamese working in agriculture. 25 years later, it's 46%. And what has happened, also quite a lot of primary producers took on wage jobs, and currently it's 1 out of 10 Vietnamese working in a wage job, and that will be the growth model for the future for sure. So I guess that Vietnam's growth will depend very much on how the wage labor part will certainly develop, and also talking about the overall growth rates, agriculture only accounts for 2.5% compared to the 6% overall in Vietnam. So my suggestion would be a close look to the wage.
In fact, Vietnam is one of the top 5 biggest rice export countries in the world. And Dr. Baumann, with your experience of 25 years experience working in Asia and Europe and America, what do you think are the challenges of the rice yielding in Vietnam?
I think in terms of yield of rice, Vietnam is obviously on the right track. But I think our main challenges are value adding in terms of not only looking at yield, but also quality. And Vietnam is actually leading, I would say, the way in trying to put a quality rice on the market, and in terms of aroma or in terms of branding Vietnamese rice and trying to give it a separate flavor. And I think here Vietnam is again playing a leadership role in marketing Vietnam rice, trying to market its own jasmine rice, and to really put a stamp on the quality of rice.
Yeah, and recently we have chosen jasmine rice to be one of our Vietnamese brand that we can to introduce to the world, and we will discuss more on what the government should do to effectively apply the PPP model in agriculture industry in Vietnam when we come back. Thank you again. Vâng, và mời quý vị tiếp tục giữ màn hình để theo dõi các phần tiếp theo của chương trình Đồng tiền thông minh.